She always thought she just had a knack for understanding people. In every relationship, she was the one who noticed when something was off before anyone said a word. A tightness in someone's voice. A pause that lasted half a second too long. She'd feel it in her chest before her mind even caught up with what was happening. That's also why, when she met him, it felt like coming home. He talked about his dreams in a way no one else had. He told her she was different from everyone else he had dated, that she finally understood him. And she did understand him, or thought she did, because understanding people was the thing she'd always been good at. What she didn't notice, not at first, was how much of the relationship revolved around his feelings. When he was upset, the whole room had to adjust. When she was upset, somehow the conversation always circled back to how her being upset was affecting him. She remembers one night trying to explain that something he'd said had hurt her, and within minutes she was the one comforting him, because hearing that he'd hurt her had hurt him more. She left that conversation apologizing for things she wasn't sure she'd actually done wrong. She found herself explaining her own emotions in a softer voice, like she needed permission to have them. She'd leave conversations with him feeling like she'd run a race she didn't remember signing up for. Tired in a way that had nothing to do with the hour, and everything to do with how much of herself she'd spent trying to keep things calm, keep things fair, keep him from feeling small. For a long time, she thought this was just what loving someone deeply looked like. Giving more, feeling more, absorbing the hard parts so the relationship could stay smooth. She'd always been the one who could sense what a room needed, so naturally, she became the one who supplied it. It took her months to ask a harder question. Not what's wrong with him, but why do I keep ending up here? And the answer wasn't comfortable. People who feel everything as deeply as she did are often the easiest people in the room to lean on. Someone who notices your mood before you've said anything is also someone who will adjust herself before you've asked her to. A person who can sense pain from across a room is a person who will absorb pain that was never hers to carry in the first place. It isn't that empaths are weak or naive or somehow asking for it. It's the opposite. The same depth that lets her feel someone else's sadness as if it were her own is the same depth that makes her an easy place for someone else to put their weight down. Narcissistic patterns don't usually look dramatic from the outside. They look like a slow redirection where someone else's needs quietly become the center of every conversation. And a sensitive, caring woman keeps adjusting herself to keep the peace without ever realizing how much of herself she's given away. She started to notice the pattern wasn't only in that one relationship. It showed up with a friend who only called when something had gone wrong in her life, who never once asked how she was doing, but always knew exactly when to call if he needed something. It showed up at work with a boss whose moods set the tone for everyone else's day, where the whole team learned to read his face before saying good morning. Even with her mother, she noticed it, the way certain conversations always somehow ended up being about her mother's disappointment, no matter what she'd actually called to talk about. Sometimes it was something as small as a text message sent at exactly the moment she finally started talking about her own day, somehow pulling the whole conversation back to him within 2 replies. Different faces, same shape. She was always the one absorbing, regulating, softening, always the one making space. The shift didn't happen overnight, and it didn't happen by becoming harder or colder or less sensitive. It happened when she started asking, in the middle of a conversation, whose feelings she was actually responsible for. Hers. Just hers. Not his disappointment. Not her friend's bad mood. Not her boss's stress. And not her mother's either. That single question, asked over and over in small moments no one else even noticed, slowly gave her back the energy she didn't even realize she'd been giving away for years. She started pausing before she apologized. She started letting a silence sit instead of rushing to fill it with comfort that wasn't hers to offer. The shift didn't happen overnight, and it didn't happen by becoming harder or colder or less sensitive. It happened when she started asking, in the middle of a conversation, whose feelings she was actually responsible for. Hers. Just hers. Not his disappointment. Not her friend's bad mood. Not her boss's stress. And not her mother's either. That single question, asked over and over in small moments no one else even noticed, slowly gave her back the energy she didn't even realize she'd been giving away for years. She started pausing before she apologized. She started letting a silence sit instead of rushing to fill it with comfort that wasn't hers to offer. If any of this sounds familiar, if you've ever left a conversation feeling drained without quite knowing why, or found yourself shrinking your own feelings to make room for someone else's, this isn't a flaw in you. It's a sign that your sensitivity has been doing someone else's work for too long. Your depth was never the problem. It just needs somewhere safer to live, and a clearer sense of where you end and someone else begins. I created a guided shadow work journal for women who feel this deeply, with prompts built around exactly this kind of pattern, the kind where you give yourself away without noticing it's happening. You'll find it linked in the description if you're ready to start asking that question for yourself. And if this story felt familiar, leave a like and subscribe, because every week I bring a new theme on emotional and spiritual healing right here.